Welcome to episode 14 of the Arc-Aholics. The Arc-Aholics is a collection of passionate gamers getting together to discuss Embark Studios' upcoming game, Arc Raiders, as well as other extraction shooter related topics. All content creator guests who appear on here will have their platform links in the description below, and I highly encourage you checking them out. But we can't get started without saying thank you to my channel supporters. These absolute legends help make this kind of content possible. A special shout out goes to my Florida Man alligator tier supporter, the Trenimal and Spectre. All of your support is truly appreciated. Welcome to this week's episode of Arc-Aholics. This is episode 14. We've got a great panel for us today. We've got Debo, returning guest, lobby wiper extraordinaire. Say hello to everybody.
Hello, how you guys doing?
Fantastic. We have a returning, a resident Embark creator, Rockhoundblack. Say hello, please.
G'day. Thanks once more for having me on board.
And we have our first-time guest, AirWingMarine from the AirWingMarine YouTube channel and Twitch. Say hello to everybody.
Hey, thanks for having me on. Good to be here.
Of course. And I, of course, am your host, Gecko, from the Gecko YouTube channel. We got a lot to talk about, and we got a lot to be hyped about. We're on the aftermath of Server Slam. We've got the wipe coming up. We're literally right in between, so let's get right into it. Airwing, as the first-time guest here, we got a little bit of an icebreaker question. Can you keep you on your toes? I would ask you if you're ready, but that kind of defies the point. And so, last time we talked, you were having a blast playing Battlefield 6. As an old Battlefield head myself, I can sympathize. If Arc Raiders made a Battlefield-style mode, first, what map would you want it on? And second, would you want the other team to be human or human-controlled arcs?
Holy smokes. Human-controlled arcs, because you got to have something different. And far as maps, man, my favorite map, I don't even remember what it's called, from back in the day, is that you take off off the landing ship. You get a couple of Hueys and a couple of boats, and you assault the port. I can't remember what the name of that map was, or even which battlefield it was. I just remember that was the very
2,
first. Maybe.
I can't remember
Battlefield
what it
2
is.
have Hueys?
Yes.
I think it was either. I don't think it was
Hueys.
Bad Company, so it might have been Battlefield 3, but I don't think it was 4. I think it was before 4. But nonetheless, that map, that's one of my most memorable favorite maps to have on Battlefield was that one.
And what about arc maps? Which map would you want to do a Battlefield type game mode on?
Probably Spaceport, but that's just because we haven't seen the other two yet. We've only seen the 3 maps, and we got supposedly 5 coming with release 2 that we might not have. But
Sure. I know it's
based on those 3, Spaceport.
Okay. Interesting answer. I know Debo probably picked Buried City, honestly. All right, cool. So we're gonna start off talking about Server Slam, kind of our impressions from it. Everyone here's played Tech Test 2, so there was a lot of difference between the two points. Let's talk first with Debo here. What were some of the things that surprised you from Tech Test 2 to Server Slam? And like, what was like the thing that was, like just making your head nod, going, "Oh, I like what they did here."
One thing that definitely surprised me was the slowed pace of the Server Slam, because in the Tech Test 2, a lot more was available. You had crafting, you had basically uncapped skill trees. I think you could probably max out the skill tree as long as you could reach the end of it. And one thing I would say that I kind of enjoyed, though, was I think the change in weapon balancing was pretty refreshing, because it didn't feel like you were getting one tap by an anvil anymore. There was a lot more variety, and I got exposed to a lot of guns that I didn't think were good. For example, the kettle, when you level it up, can be pretty nice. So it was cool how they switched things up a little bit this time around.
Okay. Airwing, same question.
For me, I didn't like the Server Slam as much as the Tech Test.
Okay.
Because it was just lacking content. So it was it devolved pretty quickly in just a PvP deathmatch, which was fine. Like, I'm not complaining about that. I expected it with what they were doing and how they were doing it. It was a good taste to get back into it. I guess the one thing I did like were the arc were a lot more challenging. At first, it was frustrating because the first time you run out there, you're thinking you're gonna treat them like you did in the Tech Test, and kind of dodge them, and they'd be a nuisance. But once you had them figured out, it was no big deal, and very, very quickly learned that the Arc were not something to underestimate in the Surfer Slam.
Gotcha. Okay. I felt I think I put out a decent amount of posts warning people about that too, in terms of the content was going to be so shallow that it was going to devolve into a very hostile map very quickly. So I even told people, if you're bringing friends along to play the Surfer Slam for the first time, you might want to give them that little bit of warning, because the game is great, but it's gonna run dry pretty fast. But don't take that as the judge for the actual game itself. It's just cool. It's like kind of like a Steam 2-hour trial essentially to figure out if you like the game or not. And within the first hour or two, you're gonna figure that out real fast. The rest of it, cool. You'll wait till launch. You get to experience it during launch. Rockhound, are you resonating with either one of these answers, or you got something different that you popped up with?
Yeah, pretty much the same. Having played, all the playtests pretty much, Server Slam definitely felt different. We goofed around a lot more in Server Slam than we did in Tech Test 2, just because of that. We kind of knew it had that demo kind of feel to it, and so we were taking on combat situations that we normally wouldn't have. We certainly invited the Leaper over to party quite a lot, and it came out on top a few times, and we came out on top a few times as well. So, yeah, I think having the crafting limited a lot more, that made a huge difference from our point of view, certainly mine. I enjoyed it, but I kind of saw it for what it was, I suppose. And maybe some people didn't see that.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. I know the Server Slam got a much more mixed reception than the adulation that Tech Test 2 did. You can pretty much chalk that up to not necessarily the difference in the game, but also just the difference in the audience, because it was instead of being a curtailed, very specific group that was trying their best to get in the game, you got everybody. And so you were bound to get some people who were just not, the game's not made for them. I mean, on the one hand, you got people that were saying there's not enough PvP, and on the other hand, people were saying there's too much PvP, all at the same time. And I feel like when you hear both of those, to me, I think that's kind of good, because the game has its own identity, and it's not trying to be for everybody. It's trying to be itself, and then if you like it, you like it, and hopefully most people did. I kind of did run into that issue when it came to crafting, but what it did, though, it did challenge me to look at the game a little differently. It did challenge me to be more aggressive, as well as being more focus oriented, as opposed to, because with Dam, for anyone who doesn't know, Dam basically goes research, control tower, that's basically it. In terms of if you want to have any kind of high level loot in action, which is kind of a critique, but it's not supposed to be the only map. So you're supposed to be able to kind of go to the next map and explore a little bit more. Debo, in regards to Dam, was there anything other points of interest that that you feel like you got to explore a little bit more because you were forced to be on one map?
There was definitely a bunch of cool areas, and I think it highlights the depth of the game a lot, especially when you and I were playing. I know you introduced me to this one place on the actual dam itself, where there's like a bridge that connects to the kind of overhang when you look onto the Red Lakes, and you can go down there, and there's like some secret loot rooms in there, and a lot of good creators have been posting like secret areas on the dam and stuff. And I will say, just having access to only the dam made me appreciate the game a lot more, because you can see how much effort the devs put into, like, this isn't just a map, it's like a whole world you're trying to describe to the player. So it was interesting.
Definitely. Rockhound, when I was playing one time, I ran across this painting of this woman just randomly in the world. I'm like, I think I just found something. I'm willing to bet top dollar this is gonna end up on a Rockhound video. And sure enough, you did not disappoint, man. This did not disappoint. Yeah. What are some areas that you found yourself exploring because you had the time to do it on Dam?
Yeah, we definitely, well, the whole thing, really. We spent a lot more time sort of roaming around, just checking things out. In that video, I also included the Formikai outpost, which is kind of on the very south edge of the map. And a lot of people don't go there. It's just a little sort of tower up on the hills. And while we were there, we discovered a little Embark Easter egg there on a backpack. Yeah. and also managed to climb up some shelves and get up to a little sort of mezzanine area up top where there were some loot cases that we didn't know about previously. So yeah, we definitely found a few hidden things. And that photograph as well, which I speculated might be a photograph of Celeste's mother with a little shrine around it. But we don't know who it is that's in the photo. But I think what it does tell us is that a lot of the lore for the game is going to come out through us just exploring and keeping our eyes open and seeing what we find around the maps. Almost like, as well as being raiders, almost like a little forensic squad going around and trying to figure out what the story of the place is just by being really observant. So yeah, I think that aspect of it we enjoyed a lot during Service Slam because we weren't so focused on the progression, long-term progression for the raider.
Yeah, I mean, you no longer needed to worry about having to upgrade anything. You just kind of got to play your game the way you did. And Erwin, you did kind of mention the fact that it kind of devolved into the PvP aspect of it. Was that enjoyable at least? Was that the kind of thing you're like, you know what, this is if I had to only do this, this is fun.
I mean, it was for me for a couple of days, but same thing with Tarkov, right? There's guys that play Tarkov and they only play it for the PvP. They don't play it for anything else. So there's going to be people that they love that. They're going to treat Arc Raiders as a new PUBG or whatever you want to call it. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's kind of the beauty of these kind of games is it takes players that have many different goals on what they play for to have fun, and it mashes them all together and it makes it work somehow. You know, that's the magic of games like, you know, Tarkov and Delta Force and all these extraction shooters and some others, but the bumpers are pulled off. And if you want to play for PvP, you can go and hunt players, and the mechanics are there for it. If you just want to sneak around and, you know, check out the lore, or you want to loot, that's there. You know, if you're a streamer, it's great. If you're a, you know, a 2 hour Andy a week kind of guy, it's got it all there. And I think with the server slam, we got a really big flavor of that other side of that spectrum, because I think I ran into a progression wall at like 5 or 6 hours. Like I had everything done, you know, everything upgraded, all the tasks done. And at that point it was like, all right, I just need to find loot to keep my guns repaired and find players to kill for fun. And that's, you know, there wasn't really any reason to take on Arc. You didn't want to take on a Rocketeer because you'd fight one of those and then a third party would show up and kill you anyways, because you'd be, you know, you'd be half shield and use up a bunch of your ammo trying to take down a big Arc. And so it was like, instead of it being able to enjoy the other side of the game, you just focused on the PvP, which was good for a day or two. It would get old in a hurry for me.
Right. I mean, for me myself as well, because even though I do consistently beat the drum of like, hey, you need to be comfortable at the very least with the possibility of PvP when you play these kind of games. I also like a more organic, you know, engagement. Like, hey, I'm on my way to do this loot run or to do this mission, and so are you, and we happen to clash, as opposed to me going like beelining looking for a fight. It felt like it was taking me out of the world a little bit. Honest, if I'm being honest. But
And
yeah, go ahead.
I was telling a lot of people that too, that were kind of complaining about like, I can't believe you guys talk this game up so much. This isn't fun. You know, everybody just runs to the same spot and fights every time. It's, you know, there's nothing good about this. And I tried to explain to them is the problem is because there's one map and there's no progression. Because once you're hunting for very specific components to get your various things upgraded or to get that blueprint you found crafted, it's going to change how players move around the map a lot,
Mm-hmm.
and the engagements become more organic. They slow down a lot. People aren't as bloodthirsty, you know, because they've got something on them they don't want to risk. They'll fight if they have to, but they're more about talking. You know what we saw in Tech Test 2 that hooked up so many of us. That was the first time we played. Um, that's what's going to be very different. I tried to explain to folks than the server slam.
Right. I felt like I was beating that drum too for a while. And so
I think I just want to chip in there. I think that's a really good way to put it. That the way the server slam was constructed, it actually completely changed the way the game played. And in some ways, for anyone coming in new, they're going to have actually quite a different perspective of what the game actually is from those of us that experience Tech Test 2, which is much more like what the game is actually going to be like.
right, and it has me worried, if I'm being honest, because I don't feel like they were showing their best foot forward. Right. Hopefully, it entices a bunch of people to play the game. But I feel like even just I don't know, level 2 upgrade on a couple of benches would have been enough to like show people, hey, this is the thing you're supposed to be working for, and they can kind of see the direction as opposed to just the starting point. Um, but yeah, I mean, other than that though, some of the basic things that they changed, I was really excited for. For example, I'm a game mechanics, junkie. I love seeing how it all tinkers together and how it works together. How long did it take for you guys to notice that the light shield got buffed? Anybody here? Or let's talk with Airwing. Did you notice that it went from 23% mitigation to 40% mitigation?
I did, but to me, it just felt more like because everybody was running the basic, you didn't have a ton of the blue weapons, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those higher level weapons that are more consistent with hitting. It was just all your starter weapons. It was rattlers and your pharaohs and stuff, and it did feel definitely like it. Not for me necessarily taking damage. It's always that way, right? It's you die faster, but nobody ever dies
Right.
as quick as you want them to, and that's kind of where it felt like it. Is it felt like people were more tanky, and obviously that was because some of the guns got nerfed a little bit, but um, now that you say it, yeah, I noticed it. I didn't think of it as the fact that the green shield got buffed, but I did notice people were a little bit harder to take down than they were in the past.
Right. And it's interesting that they point that out. I almost have the opposite experience. Like with like Debo, we had some games that you just felt like people were just falling over. And I think a lot of that was because we were experienced already in the game, so we were basically rushing and we were basically rocking blue and purple weapons almost from the jump. Um, and so it definitely felt like it was good in the sense that the 40% mitigation, but it did have 10 HP less. It resulted in people not getting obliterated instantly, right? But the follow up would basically they'd crumble afterwards because like, well, the shield's gone at this point. But I feel like that was kind of a good change. It kept people from getting popped and then suddenly they got nothing. Um, and so I feel like that was a good mechanic that they added. One big thing that we talked about here on this episode, Rockhound, is, and I want to know how you felt
Yeah.
about it, is that instead of repairing guns with just pure currency, you required actual materials now, which
Yeah,
changed the
yeah,
name of the game entirely.
totally.
So
Yeah, and
yeah.
it definitely changed it for me. I remember going in. One of my favorite weapons is the Venator,
Mm,
and I think I just couldn't find the things I needed to repair it. So at some point, I sort of had to stop using it. Going, okay, well, I need to not risk it being unusable. So I'm going to put it aside and choose something else for a while until I find the materials I need to repair it. So I think it's a good change. I like to see the game revolve more around you've got to go through some process to complete this task you want to do, rather than just going, I just need to find a bunch of loot and sell it, and then that's the way I get through the game. So I think it's a good change.
right. And that's kind of I also had this like dichotomy between having to do that for your weapons, but then you don't need to loot anything, so you just loot things full of value. So as soon as you got back, you would just sell everything. You know, again, but I do believe that was an excellent change. Um, and so another change that we saw, so Debo on this one, I want to get your thoughts on this one, is that the trade themselves, a lot of the items had a limit based on how many you could buy in the traders. Do we
Right.
feel like that's going to be enough in the end? And how do you feel about that direction?
I think it definitely will have a different impact when the game fully releases. As you guys stated, when you get out of a raid, you're basically selling all the blue items, even if they're recyclables. You have no access to the refining workbench or any sort of like advanced recycling. So you're just gonna get the blues and you're gonna sell them. I had two friends who both of whom are starting to make content on the game, but two friends who both hit 1 million coins by the end of a 2 day server slam. So that just goes to show there was no, you can't hit that amount of money unless you're literally selling your whole backpack when you get out of a raid. So um, that allowed them to basically buy things on cooldown. When you come out of the raid, you can buy up all the blue shields, you can buy all the herbal bandages, and if you're not dying and having successful raids, you're just going to keep on stacking and stacking, and that kind of that wasn't good to see. But once the game comes out and you're not going to be selling so many items and you're going to probably have less money, I don't think it will be as much of a problem because you're going to have less money and there will be a limit. So they'll work in tandem rather than kind of being contradictory systems as they were in the server slam.
Gotcha. In terms of these limits, Erwin, do you feel like maybe there was some data gathering going on, figuring out like how quickly people were going to get through these cooldowns and through these limited buys?
I really don't. The server slam to me was, I mean, we were told, I I don't remember, a month and a half ago that they weren't going to do more tests. It was service or tech test was it, and then it's going to be launch. And then they decided to do the server slam, which I think was a good thing they did. They got info on the side of the servers and the stability and that kind of stuff. Um, but as far as like the metas or the balance inside the game, I don't think there was really anything there in the server slam because for one, any of the data you collect is pretty much pointless because of how narrow focused the game was. There's so much missing that you're not going to have any good data from watching anything from that, in my opinion. But two, I just don't think I have the time. They're a week now. What are we? A week?
Yep.
5 days from
5
launch.
days.
That's not enough time to do anything. It's just not with everything else that's going on. Those guys are running around with their hair on fire right now, just trying to get ready for the 30th.
Yep.
So the idea that there's some and this is my just opinion on it, the idea that there's some kind of big plan or anything like that going on with this, I don't see that at all. I mean, you could kind of see it in just how they dealt with some of the stuff with the server slam, and so everything was just basically made as simple as they could with money. Buy what you need. There's a couple of barters that they threw in there that I hope those make it to the final game because that was a good idea. But it was just oversimplified for the purpose of testing the servers, the networking, maybe give themselves an idea of how many people to expect on the 30th, before they go live. But outside of that, I don't think there was anything more thought-wise put into balance.
Okay. Cool.
Could I ask something?
Go a couple points. But go ahead, Debo. You go first.
I just want to ask regarding the difference that you felt with the Server Slam versus Tech Test 2 and any earlier iterations you might have played. Do you feel like they honestly, I don't want to speak on things I don't know about. I'm not a game developer, but do you feel like there was a need to take such a long, uh, like such a long track to releasing now? Because it feels like the game was perfect before, and they really didn't need to change anything. That was kind of the sentiment I got from everyone who played. And obviously, there's an echo chamber because you have a closed test, and these are people who want to play, rather than like Gecko said, you have now everybody playing. But I just sort of feel like if they showed what they showed in Tech Test 2, just exactly the same, change nothing. I don't feel like the game needed anything to be different. What do you think of what do you think about that?
Well, if I'm gonna if I'm gonna put on my tinfoil hat and kind of explain it from like a theory crafting side of deal, the way I see it has happened was Tech Test 2 launched. The build we played was probably a couple of months old at best. Like that, what they were working on was not what we got on Tech Test 2. It's behind because there's a lot of work you have to do to get stability and everything ready. You can't keep adding stuff to the game. Um, and we saw some of that with the server slam, some of the icons being different, some of the pictures, some new items, some new mechanics, things like that. Um, the augments, for example, right? That's pretty significant. It might not seem like a lot, but that's pretty significant change inside the game from, just having a green, a blue, a purple augment to now you have, we have 3 green augments, I think.
So far.
And that was just in the server slam. And so with all of that going on, we don't know where they were at internally as far as being ready for more than 25,000 people to play the game. As far as, they have a big storyboard of where they want all of their content, and they've only got maybe 90% of it done. They got to get the last 10%. And, or as far as, some stuff they got out of the tech test, because I do believe the tech test did have a bunch of feedback and stuff like that as far as, and they went, oh, there's something we didn't see as players on the front end, but on the back end, they went, oh no, we definitely can't. We need 6 months because that was
Right.
that's what they said, right? They said they weren't ready. They needed 6 months. And to be honest, as much as it sucked, it was refreshing to hear that because what we've all for years all we've heard is the opposite from developers and publishers, right? Is the game wasn't ready, but we got everything where we could get it launched, and we'll just catch up everything 6 months down the road, right? And they didn't do that, and I do appreciate that. And then the other part of it, you were saying, as far as the server slam itself, what struck me was it was kind of, and I'm not trying to say this in a mean way because I don't want to diminish the guys that worked on it, but the server slam kind of seemed haphazardly slapped together, duct tape, barbed wire kind of deal, just hold it just enough to get through to get the info they wanted on the server side, because there were lots of problems in that we didn't have in the tech test, like bug wise, performance wise, some of that stuff felt like a step backwards, right?
Mhm.
And that doesn't necessarily, I don't see that, and I'm overly, I talk to anybody who sees about Tarkov, I'm optimistic about stuff because I just prefer to be that way. I don't want to be a negative Nancy. It is what it is. So to me, the copium side of it is it wasn't because the 30th is going to be a mess. The server slam was struggled where it struggled because it was something they kind of put together last minute. They decided they needed to, they wanted to slam the servers. And there wasn't a lot of thought and effort put into it, which is why we didn't have all of the mechanics included. There was probably a little bit of marketing there, hey, we want to keep stuff hidden, but it doesn't really do you good to keep stuff hidden that we already saw in Tech Test 2. But at the same time, if there's new stuff that wasn't in Tech Test 2, they don't want to reveal it in the server slam, and so they got to go to this old build, and that's just kind of how I see it. The server slam was literally nothing more to it to read into it than just to test networking, server capacity, and give them an idea of what to expect on, how many servers they got to buy on the 30th, how many they have to have up and running to have a smooth running show.
Gotcha.
Right.
And I'd like to add something to that. So, sort of following on from Debo's question, and that is, if you think that they could have released back then if we flip it around and go, let's say they did, and what's coming now would be the first update that we have where they added on expeditions, different augments. There's going to be a codex in there as well, and a new map. After that length of time, do you think that players would be very happy with that as kind of the first major update after that length of time? My opinion is no, they wouldn't be.
I mean, right. you see it industry wide, right? Battlefield's doing it right now. We got season 0 and season 1 drops in 2 days, 3 days, 28th. That's what you just described is exactly what Battlefield does. It's what Call of Duty did. It's what Dune did. I'm trying to think of some of the recent releases that I played a lot of that I'm familiar with, but that's pretty much been, shoot, Delta Force. Right. There's a lot of stuff that they've done what you said, because it's a revenue decision. I think at the end of the day, they want to get revenue flowing as fast as possible.
Yeah, for sure.
Isn't that
isn't
that like a mark of positivity in that regard when it comes to Embark then? Because we see it as industry, we call it industry standard, but we probably can all acknowledge it's probably shouldn't be. People should be more like Embark instead of Embark being more like the industry, because they're saying it's not ready and they're not putting it out for the sake of just for the sake of money. Lord knows they would have gotten hand over fist, buys if they released it, at Summer Games Fest.
That June, yeah,
that June, money. They would have been.
We were all ready.
Money. They would have been printing money, but they didn't. And so I feel like that's a even more reason for me to support Embark, because when faced with the easy road and the right road, they picked the right road. And so, and me as a person who's already kind of, shown over and over again that Embark deserves my money and deserves my faith, it's easy for me to continuously see these signs, right? However, if this is your first chance to interact with an Embark product, you haven't played the finals and you're just playing Arc Raiders because you heard great things about it, it may be a little harder to understand that. And that's part I struggle with. But I think in terms of numbers, like you talked about numbers, we saw pretty damn strong numbers just on the Steam that we can confirm. So I think it opened up to like 180,000 or something like that. It's an absurd
numbers.
And that
for no marketing, none of the other stuff.
None of that. And then to top it off, we know it's crossplay, and we can't confirm that, right? Would I be out of line saying there's probably 500,000 players playing that game during the weekend?
I think it's safe to say 400,000 to 600,000. I think that's a safe guess.
Yeah. So 500,000 basically. So it's kind of like I think that's a good sign, and I think you nailed it on the head in terms of like they needed to find out how many servers they needed to buy at the end of the day.
Well, let me pose this too on the other side, because we all talked about how great it is that Embark put it off, right? Embark is owned by Nexon, and Nexon's not I wouldn't put them in any different shoes than EA or Activision or Tencent or anybody else. They're not. Nexon is a corporation that is driven by profit. They're a money outfit. Just is what it is.
They're producers.
And we, from our perspective, saw a game that was ready to play. It was there. Maybe some small balancing changes, but technically, performance-wise, visually, content, it was all there for us. But there was enough for Embark to tell Nexon, no, we're not going to launch this right now. We could launch this and make money right now, but we're not going to. There was enough there for them to convince Nexon to back off. And I'm assuming this is all theory, imaginary kind of stuff, but it's believable because we've heard enough stories about all the backroom conversations between developers and publishers over decades. And that's more what fits in my head as realistic, is that there was something fundamentally, maybe not wrong, but not ready
right
with the game to launch, because think about what it's going to take for Embark to convince Nexon that no, we're not going to let you make 50-60 million dollars in June. We're going to put it off till October, and we're going to compete with Battlefield 6 and Call of Duty.
Yeah.
Like that all comes into the equation. That
Right.
was all discussed in a boardroom somewhere, and there was enough reason to put the game off to no, we're good. We're gonna launch
Yeah.
sandwich between Battlefield and Call of Duty, and they didn't know at the time, but Tarkov
That's
1.0
interesting.
coming out.
That's an interesting perspective that I've never considered. That I think it's really, really strong argument as to why they weren't actually ready. Like some people say, well, the DB were just saying, hey, it was ready, but they had to convince their money their actual money deliverers, their funders and all that stuff that it wasn't, and the evidence for that had to be so strong that, like you said, post the case that you just made, and like actually never considered that. It's probably one of the strongest arguments I've ever heard, actually. So yeah,
And perhaps you could even consider two scenarios where if they had released it early and the result could have been that reviews said it was mostly positive, right? And then the cost of not doing that and going forward to now, where we might expect reviews to be overwhelmingly positive, like what's the long-term difference in revenue that they'll make because of that difference, right? Compared to
right.
releasing it early and getting some early revenue.
And I think that 10-year game comment that they made during
Yeah.
TwitchCon, I think that's probably the part of that conversation that they had with Nexon is, hey, listen, long term, this is what we're gonna do. This is what you need. And so yeah, kind of exciting to all of this to kind of just put together after the fact. But you're like, I see a method to the madness here.
So just to offset a little bit of it, because it's a little bit of a negative take on it, just trying to saying the game wasn't ready and this and the other. But I think one of the resoundingly proof positive things we've learned about Embark as a game developer is that they, through all of this, it shows that they know what they want to do and they're going to do that, because it doesn't matter if it was delaying the game against literally everybody freaking out over it, to refusing to do first person. They've it's not like, well, maybe we'll do first person later and everybody's thinking PUBG route. It's no, we're never going to do first person. It just doesn't work. That's not what we designed our game around.
Right.
To decisions about keeping the arc, the game originally being PvE, but keeping that level difficulty of the PvE in while mixing PvP. It's one of the things I've liked about, for better or worse, I've liked about Battlestate games too, is that they tend to stand up to populist criticism, not necessarily good criticism, just something gets like a fire lit under it and becomes popular by everybody. They don't care.
Right.
This is what they're going to do. This is their game. This is their vision. They're going to stick with it.
Well, Tarkov would be Tarkov if they did, right?
I mean, them not doing that I would argue for Tarkov has been some of the downfall of Tarkov, is them not doing that.
Double-edged sword.
Right. But just listening to the interviews, just listening to them talk, and this whole process of them putting the game off, kind of to square the circle, is that it shows that they have that intestinal fortitude, if you will, to stick with their plan and stick with their mission. And then you talk about a 10-year plan that they have. And that just makes me super excited for the brand as a whole, the game, and what they're going to do with it and where we're going to go down the road.
Yeah. Makes me excited to be invested, So yeah. So to change on the topic here, we're going to talk about the release. We're going to get hyped up again. We're not going to worry about Silver Slam right now. We're going to worry about the release. It's 5 days where we get to experience everything, including Blue Gate, where we've seen all kinds of art for and everything. I'm kind of juiced. I'm not going to lie. I miss Starport. Buried City, it's an acquired taste, Debo. And then, but Blue Gate seemed like this nice, large, expansive, mountainous and underground facility type thing. It was some of the art coming out of that is really exciting. So to me, new map, that's probably the one thing I'm probably the most excited for. We're gonna talk about what you guys are excited for. About the release. What's the things that you are hoping for to see and to really experience as fast as physically possible? For those of you who are watching right now, comments right now. What are you excited about for in the launch on the 30th? Starting off with, let's go with Rockhound.
Yeah, well, definitely Blue Gate is one of them. That map looks like it has more verticality than the other maps. I know that Buried City has a little, but from the images I've seen so far, it looks like we're going to get a lot of verticality, a lot of underground areas, perhaps with what look like big bunkers. So yeah, super excited for that map. I'm also super interested to know if they're going to use maps as an end game sort of thing. So is the map going to be more difficult, or is it just going to be a different map? Personally, for me, being really into the lore side of things, the codex, really interested to see how extensive that's going to be, and just finally getting into the game and being able to play it and progressing without any restrictions. That's something I've looked forward to for a long time.
No more, oh, it's going to end in X amount of days.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right. So, Devo, what are you looking forward to the most on release?
I would have to back up Rockhound's sentiment on just the map, especially, and like you said as well, trying out the new maps. Stella Montes, I don't know what the unlock for Stella Montes is going to be, but I heard someone say it was a snow map. So just seeing different weather, we got a little taste of the lightning storm map variation. So seeing any new cool weather, but for me personally, I'm just really excited to see new weapons, augments. They already gave us a little taste of, like you said, they added 3 different types of green augments. I'm sure they're going to come out with some blue ones. Maybe we'll get our first purple augment. Maybe we'll get some unique items coming from playing Dark and Darker. In that game, you have certain items that are like unique and you can only get them in very specific ways. The same way you would basically loot the queen for the energy weapon blueprints and ammo and stuff like that. So I'm super excited to just see the emergent gameplay and anything that can come up from a lack of restriction. Also the progression, new loot tables. I'm just excited to get my hands on everything. Just try the whole game and get the whole experience.
Everything.
Yeah.
All right, there we go. Airwing, what about you, man? What's the singular thing that you're going to go? I'm going after that launch.
I'm addicted to progression. I love progression stuff. So it's just being able to finally upgrade, do the hideout, and then eventually what's the prestige system called? I can't think of it off the top of my head.
Expeditions?
The expedition stuff. I think they said level 20. So it's going to be a push to get to level 20 to get started on that and see what that's going to be. And then of course we're going to have to wait 7 weeks for that. But then the lore. There hasn't the one thing that's kind of been missing from a lot of this is there hasn't been a lot of lore, which we're going to get with the codex finally, and to be able to see some of the explanations in the world building to really kind of dive in and understand what these maps mean, what they mean to the raiders, what it all means to the world, and how we got where we're at, where we're there, because you've got this crazy, there's a little bit of destiny in there with the spaceport and this idea of a long lost civilization that used to go to space, and then you got the city, the buried city in the sand that just shows it's been a long.
Oh, we lost him.
There's a lot of made up stuff in my head that what the story could mean, but finally being able to get answers for that. It's it's kind of like between seasons of a TV show or something. Something's coming, you're not quite sure what it is, and now you're just excited for the second season so you can get more of the story.
Oh yeah, 100%. I personally am looking forward to Rockhound's video of breaking down the entirety of the lore. Because I know me, I'm probably gonna speed through it. Not because I want to, but it's my worst nature, I think, because I just want to go. And so I'll be happy to see him explain all that down, like Arc Raiders lore for dummies, so I can read it. But yeah,
well, I think just if I can add to that, like not only me, but the codex itself in the game should actually provide you a reference that initially you might just sort of flick through it, but as you start to add things into a codex, assuming that's how it works, that it'll grow and grow. After some time, you might go, actually, the story's starting to get a bit more fleshed out, and you might actually find yourself getting more interested in it just because of the codex existing in the first place.
But I'd rather have a Kiwi tell me about it, though. There's something about the voice that makes the whole thing a lot more.
If Embark want to put a voice actor into the codex, I'm more than happy to oblige.
Oh, there you go. You're hearing this right now, Embark. Rockhoundblack. Get his voice on there. Have him read the codex out, dude. You probably sell that honestly. $10 pop. Boom, done. I can easily see that going on. For me, I'm also all about the progression. I'm really, really curious what this expedition system and what else they're going to add to it. I'm convinced they're going to add more. They're going to add more to the end game. I'm curious to see what kind of carrot they think I'm going to want to eat in order to wipe. right? I'm curious as to what they think that's going to happen because Embark, like we've talked about before, they pretty much march to the beat of their own drum. They're not predictable. As every time I try to predict some things, yeah, sure, I can look at a video. I can predict the bombardier targeting drone, things like that. I can predict little things like that. But like in terms of their overall game design, man, they got me, especially their marketing. Like I don't understand their rationale. I'm seeing a ton of ads now, so great. Watching UFC last week, I saw the freaking Arc Raider, on the octagon. I was like, hey, there goes right there. But I can't tell. So I'm actually kind of curious to see what they have in store for us in the late game, because I've more or less played the early game a bunch of times now at this point. And so I'm more, what's it going to look like now that I'm not in a rush to get as much as I can in a few days? Now I know I can breathe and I can take my time. I can go be a loot goblin like I normally am. I can go use a bougie ass key that I know will probably not give me anything. Just I want to see what's in that room, you know. But now I can do that. I can breathe and I can take my time. I can explore the world and get in cool gunfights in areas that I probably wouldn't have done so if I was just pushing every single thing I saw. So I'm really excited about that. And so,
And you know what? I think Embark opening the doors to the game with its launch, they'll be feeling the same, right? Because for them, they're going down this path, and Expeditions is a good example. They might have a rough idea of where that might go, but they'll be looking forward to it evolving themselves and kind of player data coming back and them going, hey, this thing we thought might happen is actually a bit different, and we're going to move it over to a slightly different path. And so the whole thing evolves between us, between the community and Embark.
yeah, I mean, it's with the launch coming, I think a lot of our kind of overall answers kind of come back to a singular idea of, like, there's gonna be a lot of answered questions now, right? We all got questions in various degrees about the game, but we're gonna get answers on the 30th, and that excites us, I think, in generally speaking. So, in terms of, we got map, we got content, things of that nature, right? Speculating. What are we hoping to see by the end of season 1? Let's go with Airwing.
Well, obviously, I don't think it's too much of a hope. I think we can expect it. It's just access to Stellamontis and however that's going to be. I clean posted something, so it's going to sound like I'm stealing from him, but I was thinking the same thing as he was, is that getting to Stellamontis is going to be kind of a group effort of the community. There's going to be something to do, and it might have to do with um the the projects. It might have to do with something on a specific map, on Blue Gate or Spaceport. I don't know if any of those connect to Stellamontis or how it works, but if we can get some kind of system that brings the community as a whole to work towards something, I think it helps with community development as a whole, to make people more attached to the game and the community of the players versus just the title itself. There's you see games like Call of Duty, and there's not really a community that's a Call of Duty community. You get your buddies, you get your this, that, and the other, but it's just Call of Duty gamers. They're because of the game. Whereas you get games like Destiny or Tarkov, just because I can't go 5 seconds without mentioning it, but games where communities, Helldivers, where entire communities spin out of these games that live long beyond the game, and they do stuff like that. I think that's a really big opportunity for Arc Raiders to do here, because they're going to do what nobody else has really done before, and they're going to bridge that gap between power gamers and casuals, and to find ways in game to actually do that, to where you get a streamer that links up with somebody who plays 5 hours a week and has a good interaction and isn't just clip farming, or it isn't stuff like that. That's what I really want to see with the first season of Arc Raiders, is content and stuff that keeps pushing that. It's already there. But believe me, I'm not saying it's not there. I just want to see them facilitate it in more ways than they already do, and keep pushing that, and really see where this game can go as beyond just another game, but a global phenomenon where you've got console and PC players playing together and enjoying the game with each other.
Okay.
Yeah, I think just to add to that, I think the game itself, one of the things we saw through Server Slam and the player created content that's coming out from that, is that it has a lot of flexibility within it. So, there are some great videos of full-on intense PvP action in there, and then there's some videos of solo players like meeting up with another player and by playing the recorder as their way of like sending out a little olive branch, right? And those things are quite different, right? So I think the game definitely has a sandbox aspect to it that I think we're only just starting to get a sense of from Server Slam and Tech Test too. So I'm really interested to see where players push it as well.
Yeah, Debo.
Um, like Airwing said, I'm excited to see new community events or more so community group efforts. I was watching their interview that they had at was it TwitchCon?
Mhm.
And I think they mentioned they were gonna they kind of implied they didn't want to give too much away in that interview, it seemed like, but they kind of implied that if you participated in Tech Test 1, there was something like a bunker that players had to work together to unlock, and that something like that would be maybe making its way back around, or at least something that involves a lot of the players.
That
And like I
event,
brought up,
that event may or may not be under NDA.
oh, okay, good to know. Thank you.
Okay.
But um, I'll give a
Sorry.
second just in case you want to.
No, you're good. Just go roll with it.
Okay. Well, also apart from that, do you remember that quest in the Server Slam where I think it was Celeste talking about why the arc probes are there, and there's myths of why, what if they find what they're looking for, like
Mhm.
what would robots be looking for other than resources? So I'm
Mhm.
super
Something
excited
really
to
bad's gonna
see.
happen if they when they
Right.
do find it.
Like they're gonna find some sort of crazy arc orbiter, maybe that's gonna activate on the in like on in Toledo or whatever. So it'll be super interesting to see just by the end of season one what the arc progresses into, because is it just gonna be this you don't want it to stay like a mundane thing, like because at a point you're shooting the arc with pharaohs, and okay, if we could just kill all these robots with pharaohs, we would be on top side already, like humanity would be saved. So there's something more to them, something more menacing, and I'm excited to see what that is. It's going to give context to a lot of what we do, like the PvP won't just be running around. It'll be like, okay, we're actually here for a reason. So I'm excited to see how they develop the lore.
Same.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
so I was going to briefly chip in there. The world that they presented us has a lot of meaning in it, and there's actually a lot of history of the world preserved in the map, right? And as an example of this, I think I talked about this while I was streaming. I was going to sort of hold it back for a video, but I can mention it here. On the dam map, there's something that actually tells you a lot about what the Raiders did in the past. And that's if you're running down the front end of the dam, you might recall there's a whole pile of car tires just lying there, right? And DeMeister and I were running along, and I was like, why are these tires here in front of the dam? And then I was like, Raiders were rolling them down the dam for entertainment, right? So before the Ark turned up, right? So after the environmental collapse, this is what I'm speculating. And before Ark turned up, there was a period where it was like Daisy type survival. So for entertainment, maybe in the evening they would have just sat on a summer's night at the top of the dam, rolling car tires down for something to do, right?
Yeah.
It's
Made a
like
game out
throwing
of it or
rocks off
something.
a bridge.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So there's these little bits of history there that we can start to sort of figure out as we go along. But as you said, the other things we see, like the arc probes and the harvester, they all have meaning as well. So we're going to slowly start to figure out why those things are actually occurring. They're not just there to present us loot.
Mhm.
Right.
Right. And in terms of how you put that together, in terms of an event, I'm really
Yeah.
excited for that because that creates. I feel like events create a healthy FOMO, right? Like the Helldivers, Super Earth Defense event, right? Everyone like commented on is like creating community around that, and so it's like a healthy style of FOMO where it's not just some you know slimy way of getting more microtransactions. It's basically, hey, come in and have fun during this event because it's not going to happen again. We'll have other events, sure, but like this event's not going to happen again. And if they can kind of keep creating that loop of essentially keeping people in, and you don't need a wipe, you just create these cool events that and you have expeditions, things of that nature. So I'm excited about that as well, because it'll also break up the monotony, right? Because eventually it's going to happen. Eventually you max everything out. Eventually you collect everything. And Airwing said he can get to level 20 in 1 week essentially. And so 7 weeks later, well, you got to figure that out. And so some of us will do it pretty fast. Some people won't. That's fine. I think that's great that the game can attract people that can do both, right? And I think that's a really big, tell. That's when you have some of the suggestions or criticism, whatever it is, you saw a vast variety of them. And that kind of told you of the kind of people who maybe the game wasn't built for, but there's such a wide variety of people who are attracted to the game that I believe at that point it found the people that the game was built for at that point. Because they attracted so many, you couldn't help but just get people in there. So yeah. And so looks like we've got about a little bit of time. I wanted to give everybody an opportunity real quick to kind of talk about what they are planning in terms of content for Arc Raiders, if anything, coming up, and what our viewers can really be excited about. We'll start off with you, Rockhound.
Yeah, well, we know there's going to be a launch trailer, so almost certainly I'll try and give a complete breakdown of that. And then as soon as we get access to the game, we'll be diving into the lore side of things, the codex. I want to give people a thorough rundown of that. And also, recently, my buddy DeMeister, who is equally a Easter egg hunter as much as I am, has uncovered what we think might be a clue to something hidden on one of the maps. And we think we know which map it is and where the location might be as well. So we might have a little teaser of an Easter egg potentially coming pretty soon. So once we get the chance to dive into the game, we'll start hunting for that, and I'll come back to you and let you know if that's my suspicions are correct.
Look forward to it. AirWing, what about yourself?
You name it, it's there. I've got the last week, and this has all been crazy. Just putting content together, getting videos, getting stuff ready for the 30th, trying to figure out what you can do now, what you got to wait for until we see we're going to get on the 30th.
Right.
Plus, I'm working on a buddy. We're doing a companion website called arcraiders.pro. We've been working on pretty hard for about 3 months now. Hopefully we have it ready to launch on the 30th. I think we will, but you know how that stuff goes. And it's just going to be a place for players to, a lot of the complexities, things like, for me, it was like, okay, what is the most confusing stuff that when I'm playing, I know it's going to be for people who don't spend 10 hours a day on the game. So, components and crafting and skill trees and just a place. It's all of what I wanted to do is what you have on Tarkov, where there's like 10 different websites, whether you've got Tarkov Market or, the Goon Tracker or whatever it all is, but put that all into one place so you're not having to bounce around 10 different websites.
Right.
Put that all together for Arc Raiders and have a place for the community to have a good resource, one that's trustworthy, one that isn't driven by some outfit that's just out there to try to steal your data and, make money off of you, something from somebody who's in the community. That was our goal. So that, and then all the YouTube video content, from guides to gameplay to lore stuff to just anything I can get my hands on, we'll be doing videos on it.
Lots and lots. Debo, what about yourself? What you got coming down the pipe?
Following that up is going to be a tough one. You guys are all very respectable with what you're doing for the community. But mainly just PvP, honestly, just PvP, and just trying to share, I guess, community vibe. Everybody come to the Twitch chat and we all just have some fun, laugh. During the server slam, like you said, it was kind of unserious because there wasn't much to do, but I was running around, like, whenever I would knock a raider, I would ask them a trivia question.
Oh yeah, I saw that. That was funny. Was funny.
So screwed.
What was the best one you came up with? What was the best one you came up with?
Oh man, there was a guy who, oh my gosh, there was a crazy moment and I didn't get it like recorded. So it was super sad.
That's the worst thing you can say is content. I didn't have it recording.
I know, I was cringing afterward because it was so good. But I spawned, and you know how you can spawn kind of late. So I spawned and I'm walking out of one of the little bunkers that have those iron tubs in them where you can breach them. And I'm walking out of the bunker and I hear someone breaching in a bunker next to me. So I go over, he comes out, I shoot him. And I down him, and I've been asking everyone the whole day, what's the furthest planet from the sun? Nobody's getting it. And I get this guy, and he gets it, and he says Jupiter. Wait, was it? I don't even remember my own question at this point. That's how unserious I was being. But he got the answer right. And I get him up.
It's Neptune.
Neptune? There we go. See, yeah. I would get my own question wrong. That's not a good sign. I'm just here for the PvP. But anyway, I get him up. He goes, we go our separate ways. I'm like, have a good one, bro. And then I hear shots. I hear a flare go off. I run over to him. It's something out of a movie. I see him knocked. And right before he dies, I kill the guy who kills him. I walk up, it's the same dude that I saved, and he's just dead. It was like a tragedy, but stuff like that, you know, just
that's a
fun,
story, man.
I
That's
guess
a good
RP.
story right there.
Yeah, it would have been good to get it. I might figure out how to get the trash VOD clip that's gonna look like it was recorded in 240p, but figure out a way for that. Anyway, to answer the original question, just bringing the community together, having some fun times, and showing off builds. When it's time to get serious, like when you and I play together, we do some team PvP, cut the comms, you know, let's get in there, let's get some loot. And when it's time to play solo, just have some fun.
For sure, man. Don't knock yourself, man. That's entertaining stuff, man. Like
Thank you.
I live off that kind of stuff. I can literally get up in the morning, get my breakfast. I need something to watch. I ain't watching daytime TV. I'm gonna turn on some Debo. I'm like, all right, let me get my quick fix while I'm eating my breakfast. And this is like, it's entertaining. It's entertaining. It's what it is, right? It's short, cut. It's just like boom. It's right when you want it. It's right in the feels. For myself, I started this channel making guides. I'm finally getting back to that. I haven't had a game in a long time that I really kind of able to sink my teeth into. This has been several years in the making. The document I wrote originally for an overall guide was started in 2023. So I have had to revise it every single time I play the damn game. So I'm excited to finally get to the 30th. I'm excited to put together guides that are actually relevant, that aren't built off 5 months old builds. And so I'm really excited for that. And so probably some streaming, but other than that, we're chilling. We're getting excited for the 30th. We're playing the game that we've been playing on and off for 2 years now, and finally get to do it without having to have a timer on it. So I want to thank everybody for showing up. You guys, especially, I want to thank you guys for taking the time out of your day to be here. I want to thank the community for taking the time to watch, and leave it down in the comments, man. What are you looking forward to for launch, man? Hype everybody up. Discord links, all that fun stuff. Everybody here is gonna have their links in the description, by the way. Check them all out. You should be subbed to all of them. If it's not, it's a crying shame. Rockhound, send us out.
Well, normally I say to everyone, enjoy the rest of your day, but this time I'm going to say, see you topside. Kia kaha. Stay strong.